Well, good morning again, or good evening, or good afternoon, whenever you're tuning in here. We're going to talk about the telephone, probably your favorite device. I don't know. It's not my favorite device, but it's probably the one I have to have near me most often. So, if you want to pull up your history of telecommunications PowerPoint, please go right ahead. Um, I'm going to take you right through these slides and try to tell you which slide I'm on. We're on slide number 2 after the cover slide, title slide. So this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what is telecommunications. We're going to talk about the time before phones. I know you can't imagine that. You've had phones ever since you've been alive, but I can and I really can't tell you much about what it was like before phones because even though I was around, I didn't. No, I wasn't around before phones. No, okay, I'm not that old. And who actually invented the telephone? I know that this is one of the issues that we have every time we talk about a new mass communication device is who really invented this thing. And I think the fair way to talk about these things um, is to give credit to each person who made a contribution along the way. Some people are going to tell you that Edison invented the telephone. Oh, Edison, Thomas Edison. Who was that guy? He's got his hands in everything, doesn't he? Um, at any rate, we're going to talk about several people and along the way and what they did, what they added to it, how we got to the point we're at today where it is indispensable for us. We cannot really get along without our telephones. Um, we're going to talk about the period between 1900 and 1982, long period of time, where we had a monopoly. Uh, what you remember is Alexander Graham Bell. Maybe he is the inventor of the telephone, but Bell became AT&T, and it was a monopoly for 82 years. Then in 1982, we had some long distance competition. 1996, local dial tone competition, and 2000 and beyond, um, World Wide Web, internet, phones, and that sort of thing. And who knows what the future holds for us. But at any rate, that's a little intro to what we're going to talk about. So let's move on to the third slide, and we'll talk about the definition of telecommunications. It is the transmission of signals over a distance for the purpose of communication. Now, we have several things that we've learned about that would probably fall under that definition, but the word telecommunication is adapted from a French word. It is a compound of the Greek prefix tele, meaning far off, and communication, meaning to transfer information. The telephone has three parts: a transmitter, a medium, and a receiver. Now, we've looked at how communication takes place between people, and the transmitter is the sender, the person who has a message. And then we have a medium. We have some kind of channel. We have some kind of way in which we get our message to the receiver. Um, and of course, what we hope is that even if we're sending an email can be very hard to interpret. Let's say I accidentally push my caps lock and I type my email that way. And when I look up, I see, oh my gosh, they're going to think I'm angry, but I can't help it. I don't have the time to go back and make everything upper and lowercase. And I send it, and just as I thought, somebody thinks I'm angry. So all of that enters in. Now we have emojis and other things. I'm reading some very interesting new research being done in communication for the National Communication Association. And it's interesting how emojis are now turning up in legal decisions. How emojis are being used when evidence includes emails and people have an emoji in the email and how that is supposed to be interpreted as evidence. So we're going to stay with the telecommunication definition before we end this. And so we want to know what are some examples of telecommunication systems and name the mediums for each. So remember the time before phones when we had telegraph. 1831, Professor Joseph Henry of Albany, New York. He rang a bell at a distance by connecting and disconnecting wires. This is not like the telephone we have, but it was certainly telecommunications. And then in 1844, Samuel Morse sends from Baltimore to Washington, D.C., the message, "What hath God wrought?" It comes from the Bible, Numbers 22:23, and it was a message sent in Morse code. Okay, we're going to stop this one right here and then continue in a minute.